everyone, welcome. My name's Madison and this is Karina, and today we're going to be walking you through a conscious conception and the preconception phase webinar. We're going to be covering why this is so important and everything you need to know.
Okay, so just a bit of an overview of what we're going to be going through today. So starting with an introduction on us and who we are, and then we're going to be going into what conscious conception is and the preconception phase. And from there, why this is so important. So we've got a few facts there about why this is such a growing area. And then going on to the 5 pillars of preconception care and what you can do. And then a bit about our conscious conception guided journey.
Okay, so we'll begin by introducing us and Women's Wisdom Co. So here at Women's Wisdom Co, our mission is to create and share online courses that are created by women for women to make fundamental health knowledge and wisdom accessible to every single woman in the comfort of their own home. So that's our ethos, that's our mission here, and that's why we've collaborated and come together. I guess a little bit about us. So as I said, my name's Madison, and I'm the dietitian here at Women's Wisdom Co, as well as the yoga teacher and meditation teacher. I guess my journey into health began at quite a young age. I've had digestive issues for a long time, and that's what was my initial spark into the realm of health and healing.
And I'm Karina. I'm a women's health naturopath. So I'm really passionate about helping women throughout all their life stages, but more recently, I guess, with my own preconception journey, preconception health has been my main focus. So that's what kind of sparked the idea for Madison and I, and yeah, created Women's Wisdom Co.
Exactly. We were both on our preconception journeys and just were overwhelmed with the information and couldn't really find any simple or easy way to access everything that we needed to do to prepare our bodies. So that's what we are creating and sharing. Okay, so moving into conscious conception. So what exactly does this mean? So conscious conception occurs after you've made the conscious decision to conceive, and it is the active pursuit of preparing your body and mind to create your most nourished and fertile self. So this is the definition that we've come up with, and this is what it means for us. So essentially it is referring to that preconception phase, which is the months leading up before you fall pregnant. That's so crucial, and that's what we're going to be covering today.
Okay, so this is a bit of a quote from Roy Dittman, who's a fertility practitioner, a well-known one. So, I have consistently observed that when older couples eliminate toxins and prepare their bodies, they have healthier children than those born to younger couples who do not prepare before conceiving. This really goes to show the importance of preparing, no matter your age, no matter what your past has been, preparing for your future child is key.
And I think now more so than ever, it's more important with the growing number of environmental toxins and pollutants out there in our world. Like, I think it's just becoming more and more important. Okay, so something that I want you guys to consider, I guess, and I want to reflect on with you. So we're talking about the suppression of our fertility as women. So if you think about it, our entire lives, we've kind of spent avoiding falling pregnant. But I'm going to pose to you, what if instead of preparing for pregnancy the moment we conceive, we prepared for pregnancy our entire lives? And see how that sits with you, see what comes up in your mind. I guess it's a little bit of a foreign concept here in our culture, which we'll cover a little bit later, that it's more common in other cultures, but it's really about, you know, living a life that is setting you up for when you're going to be having children, setting you up and I guess amplifying your fertility. Yeah, and just, I guess, rewriting the story of our culture. Why should we only start to consider this the moment we want to fall pregnant? Why should we ignore this our entire lives as women until, you know, maybe the month before we decide to start trying? I guess
It's really something we should be taught in schools.
Yeah, exactly. It really is. Like a lot of us have no idea. And I guess we're here to rewrite that for everybody because this is the foundation of everything. This is the foundation of life.
All right, so yeah, there was a bit of research done by different traditional cultures. So a gentleman traveled through different traditional cultures in the 1930s and kind of looked at what they were doing and how they worked. And he found that men and women would spend several months preparing for conception. So they'd kind of spend some time apart from the rest of the village, and they'd spend time just really nourishing themselves and really nourishing what they were about to become, really. So one of the sacred foods he found among many cultures was butter. So butter made from milk from properly raised grass-fed cows. And this is such a nutrient-dense food. These couples had gone away and spent time eating that and just really filling up their bodies ready for the next stage of their life. It's really quite cool to hear that even though back then they knew the importance of preparing before just conceiving.
And it's basically like, I guess you would say that the West is one of the few cultures that don't do this. Like this is common all around the globe. Yeah, so I think it's time we take some notes from these guys that really knew what was going on all the way back then.
Yeah, it was really in the interest of their survival, I guess. Their goal, like their overriding goal, was to have healthy and strong babies that could survive harsh environments and continue on for generations. So it just makes so much sense.
Exactly. Okay, so then going back to the topic of, I guess, our fertility and here in the West, how we perceive this whole journey. So it really is ingrained in our culture to mask symptoms. And also, I guess more people talk about the inconvenience of our monthly bleed than ever celebrating it. How often do you hear women saying, oh, yay, like I've got my period? You know, that just isn't really something that women say, sadly. And yet it should be something that is celebrated because it's amazing. And like we covered before, we aren't taught how to care for our fertility in school. We don't learn this. You know, we are taught how to prevent a pregnancy, but we aren't taught how to nourish our bodies to preserve our fertility and our eggs. And we're going to cover this a little bit later. You know, our eggs, we carry them with us through our whole lives. So this is something that we should be taught very early on. And majority of us spend years investing money and energy into preventing pregnancy, like I said. So, you know, the contraceptive pill or buying condoms or, you know, any of those methods, we're spending our money there. And then when we decide we actually do want to get pregnant, our bodies just aren't ready because we've spent years neglecting it and years trying to suppress it. So it's like, why would it be ready when we just decide to start paying attention? And this kind of leads us into the preconception phase. So this is kind of the story of what is usually going on in our culture. But now let's talk about why this phase is so important. We think that this should really be kind of like a fourth trimester, and you're going to find out why soon.
All right, so starting a bit on the physical side of things. So females, our eggs take roughly 120 days to fully mature. But a fun fact for you, we actually have all of our immature eggs, so our follicles, and they are formed at around 20 weeks gestation. So when we're in our mum's tum, our immature follicles are formed. So technically, if you're a female, your mum's mum carried us in the womb too, which is a pretty special connection to start off with. But this also means that we have carried our follicles and they've been in us through our whole life and through every life choice we've made. So this is where it comes to play, like when we were saying that we should be taught fertility and that we've got our eggs from birth, basically. We should be taught that in schools. We should be taught that growing up so that we can do everything we can to protect our reproductive future.
Because it's like generations, our future children. Like, it's just a generation, it's so impacted, like, on all the future generations to follow.
Yeah. So, but in saying that, there's still a lot of evidence in that to support that. The 4 months prior to conceiving, if you focus on your diet and make some lifestyle changes and everything, then it really helps with you maturing that one egg before conception. So there's still lots you can do. The mother's diet and nutrient status is basically what creates the building blocks for your bub, so for baby's growth and development and everything. So everything that the mum has is kind of used to build your baby. And yes, so similar with males, their sperm has roughly a life cycle of 90 days. So about 3 months, we recommend men getting like prepared for preconception, for conception. So unlike women who have our eggs from birth, they can kind of change what they're doing basically to improve their sperm health.
Regenerating, isn't it, really? Like, they have the chance, I guess, to totally scrap everything and start from scratch, which I think is pretty cool. Should be quite empowering for the men. So yeah, everything in that 90 days period, I guess, is influencing that sperm health. So that's why it's crucial for the males to be on board as well.
Yeah, so males provide 50% of the DNA, just like mum provides 50%. So if you're working on both partners, then that's optimizing your chances for a healthy bub.
Okay, so what happens if this story kind of goes a little bit wrong? What happens if we aren't preparing? So I guess it's no secret that childhood illness is on the rise. Things like cancers, diseases, all sorts of things are just increasing as the years go on. And there are lots of factors that could be contributing to this, but there's one thing that is for sure. And that is, like we said, the health of the mother and the father at the time of conception and the months, some even years prior, is a major determining factor for the child's health. So this isn't to say that this is going to be the be all and end all and prevent anything going wrong. That's not what we're saying at all. It's like, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you try to set your baby up as best you can while you can? Why wouldn't you do everything that you can in this period? Okay, so let's look at some facts. I said that childhood illness is on the rise. Now, I don't want to scare anyone. This isn't a scare factor at all. It's just really interesting. So take this as knowledge and make it empowering. So the increase of birth defects such as autism and ADD in the last 2 years has actually gone up 1,000%, which is huge, absolutely huge. And the age in which 90% of the brain has been developed and the personality is already set is 3 years. So everything has already pretty much been set in concrete by that stage. So that's why these years and this time is so crucial. And then 50% of children born today have subtle birth defects that manifest later in life. So things like obesity and asthma, just because, for the first 20, 30, 40 years, things are all smooth sailing. That isn't to say that there aren't things that are going to come up later on in life. So that's a bit of a big one there. And then another huge fact for us here in Australia is 1 in 6 couples have fertility issues and trouble conceiving. And I think this is projected to be, I can't remember the exact figure, but it's going to be even worse in the years to come. So that's kind of a bit of a picture. And this is just relevant to us here in Australia. These are all Australian figures that we're quoting here. But it is a similar story, also in the US, also across Europe. Do you have anything to add, Karina?
I think just the 100% one there, that was American statistics, but
Oh, there you go. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of the same story is happening here. A lot of it is applicable here as well.
but very similar, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So I guess all of this is happening and there isn't really a lot of explanation or a lot of like definitive answers as to why, would you say? We kind of just left
Yeah,
with the
because
stat.
it's not talked about.
Yeah, it's kind of like, this is the picture, this is the situation. No real solutions are given to anybody.
Yeah, everyone's just accepting it for what it is, which there's so much that can be done to improve these statistics, like so much.
Yeah, so it's about, yeah, I guess we don't want to passively just watch these rise. So the power, it falls back to us. The choices, it all falls back to us. And so I just want to end that on. So we all want to have brilliant, smart, healthy, and thriving babies that go and live happy and fulfilling lives. So we would do anything that we could for our children. So why wouldn't we spend the time creating the most nourishing first home and setting them up for health as best that we can? You know, why wouldn't we take this 4 months minimum to prepare? I think a big point to make is as well, once we have conceived, there is little to nothing that we can really do in terms of cleansing and clearing to prepare our bodies or our space, because then once we're pregnant, everything, you know, filters through the baby and things, it's not safe to be doing so. So that's why it's crucial that it's done beforehand, because once you're pregnant, there, like I said, there isn't a lot that you can do.
Yeah, it's summed up really nicely with this quote. So the time to make the biggest impact of the health and intelligence of your future child is before he or she is even conceived. Once a child is born with a weakened constitution, treating the condition can be costly, time-consuming, and physically and emotionally draining.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so another little statistic for you guys. So more than a third of pregnancies aren't actually planned. And I myself fall into that category as well. So, you know, we can't always control these things, but for a lot of people we can, you know, for the people that are consciously choosing to have a baby, you know, they can. So for what it means for these 1/3 of pregnancies, this means that these women are going into pregnancy not aware of their nutrient levels. They likely have high stress levels because we all live in the modern world. It's also fast paced, busy, pressure continuously. And they're likely not in optimal health, to be honest. Like they're likely not. So then what happens? Essentially, if you take a depleted woman who is just living life prior to conceiving, she then becomes pregnant, then the demands and nutrient requirements of the baby is enormous. And then trying to replenish herself while pregnant is near impossible because the requirements are so high, which then leads to a depleted woman postpartum. You have things like breastfeeding, which also increases all of your requirements. You have blood loss at birth potentially. And then that just leads to chronic and long-term burnout and depletion. And then what happens after that? Then if women don't correct that after, which I mean, it's incredibly hard afterwards because then you have a little human that you're chasing around and you're not your first priority anymore. And then you're likely going to get pregnant with a second or third in the coming years. And it just compounds this picture.
Just keeps spiralizing, yeah.
We just have depleted and depleted and depleted women. And as each pregnancy goes on, your nutrient levels just decrease and decrease. So that's why this preconception period is so important. Okay, so now we've painted the picture of preconception and why this is such a crucial stage. So let's actually hone in on, okay, what can we be doing in this period?
So we've created a bit of a concept here. So it's the 5 pillars of preconception health. So the 5 areas that you can work on to improve your health for your future child's health. So we'll be diving into each of these individually, but I'll just quickly go over them. So understanding and balancing your hormonal rhythms, removing environmental toxins, nourishing diet and replenishing nutrients, emotional and stress management, and psycho-spiritual aspects. So we'll be looking into these individually now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're going to begin with the bottom level of that triangle, which is understanding and balancing your hormonal rhythms. So to understand your cycle and your fertile days is really the foundation for any conception journey. If you're going to be trying to conceive, it's crucial to be knowing when you should be trying in the first place. And if you aren't really following your cycle and you're not sure what's normal, how are you supposed to know if something is out of whack? You can't really identify anything then. And then another big issue here is contraception as well. So if you're coming off, so it's important to be coming off contraception, obviously, but then are you correcting the subsequent hormone imbalances and nutritional deficiencies that these things leave us with? So the contraceptive pill depletes numerous nutrients, and these just happen to be the exact same nutrients that your baby needs for neurological development. So a lot of women just want to stop taking the pill a month before they want to start trying, and you know, who knows where these nutrient levels are at? Most likely very depleted.
Yeah, and the pill also, has a lot to do with gut health. So, damaging your gut. And also just like stopping the signaling of normal hormone receptors in your body. So it can really cause hormonal imbalances, which can make it difficult to conceive in the first place anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And then as well, in this foundational level, we really want to be ruling out any reproductive disorders that might be getting in your way. So things like PCOS and endometriosis, if these are unmanaged, they can make it very complicated to fall pregnant.
And the diagnosis rate of these is so low. Like there's a lot of people who remain undiagnosed with these conditions because they're just, shrugged off by doctors saying, oh, it's just normal, like period pain's normal, that kind of thing. So we really want to know before you start your reproductive journey, if any of these might be getting in the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then also in this phase, we want to be utilizing natural tools to enhance our hormone health and also bring back into balance any imbalances that we have. And some of our favorite ways of doing so, there's seed cycling, and we actually have a free little ebook that we have on our website all about this if you guys want to have a look and give it a go and see if it works for you. And then some other wonderful tools are things like herbs. There are also lots of essential oils that can be used, and as well, of course, a nourishing diet. So lots of nutrients that we obtain from our diet is crucial in our cycle health and our hormone balance. So they're really the fundamentals there. Okay, so the next pillar moving up. So once we've kind of addressed the foundation, our cycle, then we can start looking at our environment and environmental toxins. So what we're referring to here is both the toxins that we use in our home and also what we use on us, on our skin. And a big one is parabens.
Yeah, so you've probably heard about parabens. It's one of the most commonly known toxins that are found in makeups and skincares, shampoos and conditioners, that kind of thing. So one study actually found diminished ovarian reserve in women who were exposed to high amounts of parabens. So their ovaries weren't working as well as they should, so conceiving would be hard. I also found another study that showed decrease in fertility in marine animals after these chemicals had ended up in the seas, which is just so worrying. Like, we're putting these chemicals on our skin and then washing them out into the sea, and they're still affecting, like later down the track, they're affecting the sea animals that are exposed to them.
Yeah, that's scary. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so things, like makeup, skincare, cleaning products and that, they also contain like endocrine disruptors, which can interrupt your hormone function. All of these things that are kind of affecting our fertility levels.
Yeah, and so many women expose themselves, women especially expose themselves to so many chemicals just in the space of one day. Even I remember reading a statistic. I think it's over like 250 chemicals just in one day, and lots of these we don't really actually have the long-term studies to assess their effects. Like a lot of them we don't really know because they're relatively new. So I guess we're using ourselves as the biggest experiment, sadly. And then some other really important areas to address as well is also your water. So where are you getting your water from? It's no secret that tap water is incredibly contaminated. And then also things like air and food quality. So the air you're breathing, they can be airborne pollutants. Some pesticides and insecticides go into the air. And then also with food, we're talking about things like, are you having non-organic food that's been sprayed with pesticides and herbicides that can then go and further wreak havoc on your body? Some of those are endocrine disrupting. Some of those act in ways of antibiotics. So even if you haven't had antibiotics in years, you could be indirectly having traces of that through these sources as well. So yeah, we live in an incredibly toxin-filled world and we're exposed to an array of toxins every single day. So what can we do about it? I mean, a lot of it can be unavoidable when you're out in the public, but just making sure that your detoxification pathways are functioning at their best. So this is crucial. These are the processes in our body that handle what we're exposed to. And I guess if we're not making sure that these are functioning optimally before falling pregnant, then we could be unintentionally exposing our baby to any nasty things that haven't been cleared from our bodies. And the three key ways we handle body toxins in our body is via our gut, liver, and lymph. And Karina's going to go into a little bit more on those.
Yeah, so just briefly, the gut really helps to clear waste through healthy bowel motions. So getting rid of all of those things that we've kind of detoxified in our body, and then we want them clearing out. So it's important to have regular bowel motions and healthy bowel motions. The liver, so kind of like the master filter of the body, it really, all chemicals and toxins get passed through the liver, and the liver neutralizes them. So neutralizes them and then removes them. So they're no longer an issue for our body. And then the lymphatic system as well, which helps to clear waste from, old products from our blood, and helps to detox the body that way. Mm-hmm. So yeah, with this kind of level of our triangle, it's really important to make sure you're reducing as much exposure, reducing that toxic load, and also then making sure you can detox what you are exposed to. So making sure that's all functioning. Yeah, it's really important. We kind of think of it as your body is going to be the home, your child's first home. For their first 9 months. That's where they're going to be living. So you want to make it as clean and as healthy and good for their health as possible. So that's where this level comes in.
Exactly. Rather than, painting the nursery and getting some beautiful furniture and bassinet, why wouldn't we make our womb the most incredibly beautiful place as well?
Yeah.
Okay, so moving up to the next level of our little pyramid here. So we're covering nourishing diet and replenishing nutrients. So as we addressed a little bit earlier, I think little Reef's awake. That's okay, Dad's got him. So the nutrients that we eat are the building blocks for our future child as women. So if we're not obtaining these through our diet, then our little ones aren't getting them. It's up to us. It's what we're eating. So none of the growth and development can actually take place without the nutrients. And these are things like tissue, bone, all of that. And also, I guess, by making sure that you have a very well-balanced, nourishing diet, you're actually setting yourself up for the immense growth and change that you're about to undergo. So as we touched on a little bit before about the depleted mother situation, it's very sad about being awake right now. So they say that with every single birth, a mother loses 10% of her minerals. So the picture that I painted a bit earlier about a woman who you know, has 3 children, maybe very close together at the end of that process, you know, she's going to be a very depleted woman. You know, 30% of her minerals are down. And then trying to replenish that with 3 little kiddos, that would be
very difficult.
Yeah, that's it. And then just making sure that you're eating a nourishing diet also sets you up for a better recovery postpartum. You know, you have all the elements and nutrients, that are required for healing and repairing muscle, repairing tissue, because birth is a huge process as well. And blood loss, so many things go into play in that situation. And then, so another thing that's very important is it reduces the risk of illness, disease, and/or complications in your baby. So as I said, nutrients are essential for all of the processes when it comes to building a baby. So building their tissue, bones, their brain development, neurotransmitters, all of those. Yeah, and there are lots of different nutrients that are very important for this that have to be obtained from a variety of different food sources.
Yeah, you've probably heard of folate. So folate's one of the most common that you hear when you find out you're pregnant or in the preconception phase. So it's crucial for the developing bub. So a deficiency can lead to abnormalities of the brain, spinal cord, and low birth weight. So that one's a really important one. Low zinc levels can lead to premature labor and low birth weight. And probably one of the biggest ones here, so vitamin D. So it's estimated that up to 30% of Australians have a mild, moderate, or severe deficiency of vitamin D, which is pretty intense considering Australia, like you would think we would have a lot of sun exposure in that. So yeah, vitamin D deficiency can lead to miscarriage, increased risk of gestational diabetes, increased risk of cesarean section birth, and abnormal bone growth, fractures, and rickets in newborns. And it's quite alarming that it's overlooked.
Very true, very true. And then, you know, as well as vitamin C, so that also helps strengthen the amniotic sac. And vitamin E also is very protective for oxidative stress, crucial for sperm cells. So, you know, all of these things play such a huge role. Okay, now moving another notch up into our little triangle here that we're covering. So we're going to be talking about the emotional preparation and also stress management. So we've covered a lot of very physical elements, I guess, of pregnancy and preconception, but pregnancy and birth is just as much an emotional journey as it is a physical one. So you are moving into an entire new state of being. You're becoming an entire new version of yourself that you've never been before. And of course, with this, you know, lots of things are going to come up. It's going to be an emotional journey. So it's really important to make sure that you have outlets and tools that you can utilize and refer back to help kind of process and clear what comes up for you on this. Or better yet, even work on clearing these before you actually fall pregnant. I know personally for me, you know, my pregnancy was a very emotional journey. I didn't really address a lot of things that I didn't know were there. It kind of brought up heaps for me. Oh, poor little man, I might have to give him a cuddle. I think Dad's got him. We'll see how he goes. Yeah, so like I said, like, you know, if you have the chance, you know, it would be amazing to be working on this and clearing this beforehand. So some of our favorite tools to do so are things like flower essences, journaling, and meditating.
Yeah, so yeah, flower essences are a bit of like a form of energetic healing. So sourced from different flowers, they help balance your emotions and kind of help support exactly the types of emotions that you're going through and to help you move through those emotions like smoothly.
Exactly. Yeah. And journaling's just great to actually be able to brain dump on a piece of paper and have it as physical confirmation. It's done, sorted, you know, your brain can kind of stop like dwelling on it and re-going over it. Little Reef's making an appearance. Hope you guys don't mind.
Yeah, so again with stress management, so stress has not only been linked to an array of diseases in every stage of a life cycle, but it can also kind of interrupt our hormones. So it can prevent us from ovulating, which makes pregnancy impossible nearly. So it interferes with all of our delicate hormonal balance. And if it goes unmanaged and then it goes into our pregnancy, it can affect the neurological development of the baby, which is huge. So our stress when we're pregnant can impact our child's stress and how they deal with stress for their whole life as well.
Yeah. So
tools you can do to manage this is yoga, meditation, and grounding practices.
Yeah, and grounding practices, I guess, to connect with the earth and bring you back down into your parasympathetic nervous system and switch off that stress response. Okay, so the very top little component of our triangle here. So we're talking about the spiritual aspects. So just as much as pregnancy and birth is a physical and emotional journey, it is also arguably one of the most spiritual journeys that we will experience in our lifetimes. We are literally creating life and birthing that into the world, and that's pretty damn amazing. And like I said, this process is quite an evolution of self. And I think your connection and your own personal beliefs will determine so much of what is relevant to you here and what feels true to you and how you navigate this. But I guess also as well, another point is regardless of how much preparation we make and how long we spend preparing, ultimately there is always an element of divine timing, or God's will, you might say. So there are forces outside of us and that are just out of our control when it comes to creating life. And like I said, here you go. It's all very, very individualized. So we believe this is quite an individual journey, and it's all about finding what feels true to you. So then, now that we've got all of that background knowledge, we invite you guys to join us. We have created a little bit of a conscious conception journey that we're going to cover and share with you now.
So our Conscious Conception online course is a 12-week guided preparation journey created by us, so both a naturopath and a holistic dietitian. We are intertwining our fields of areas of expertise to deliver a whole body and mind approach to preconception preparation. So we're covering all aspects of what you need to be doing to get to a healthy conception, basically. So we are including weekly lectures, downloadable handouts, walking you through the 4 foundational pillars of preconception care. And each week we'll be providing an action step as well. So we'll give you the lecture teaching you what to do. And then the action step is how to implement that in your life, how to get that change in your life to improve your health and your reproductive journey's health. And it also gives you access to an online community for all of those walking this same path, a bit of a place to connect and check in with others.
Yeah. And I think that's the key, if you don't want to walk this path alone, and if you're overwhelmed by this all and you know you want to prepare, but you don't know where to start, this is definitely the place to begin. This is what we felt. So we decided to create this step-by-step process for the everyday woman, who doesn't have time to read all the 10, 15, 20 books on the topic, or, listen to podcasts, that just wants it all in a nice, easy, accessible step-by-step guide. So then this is our curriculum that we cover in our 12 weeks together. So we've separated it into 4 main phases, and we like to use a bit of an analogy around a garden. So just as you would, tend to your soil, plant your seeds, and then fertilize and water that garden, we kind of consider our body and our womb space the same. You want to make sure that soil and our body is very fertile. So the 4 key phases that we separate this into is getting to know your inner rhythms and the seasons. Then we go into tending the soil, pulling the weeds and planting the seeds, and then lastly, fertilizing the soil. So just quickly, week by week. So in the first week, we hone in on your cycle and we identify any hormonal balances at the beginning to make sure that you're not continuing through with anything that you haven't picked up on. We then talk about contraception. We go into all the different forms of contraception, and you can kind of have a look at what's relevant to you. And even if you're not on contraception now, if you've been on contraception at any point in your life, this is very relevant to you. We then cover some tools to help bring things back into balance if things aren't. And then we move on to, in week 4, we dive into the diet and all of the nutrients that are crucial for preconception. We give you little write-ups on exactly what these do, food sources of where these are, you can obtain these from, and then we also provide a bunch of recipes that contain all of these foods. So then to make sure that you're really hitting all of those bases there. We then cover lifestyle and sleep in week 5. And then we also have a week on males' fertility, which is really exciting. So we dedicate a whole module to what the men can be doing as well. So if they want to follow on with this journey with you and do this journey with you, they can from here, because then everything pretty much after this point is very applicable to men as well. Week 7, we touch on cleansing. So this is where we go into, you know, the gut, liver, and lymph that we touched on, and how to make sure that they're all functioning optimally. And then weeks 8 and 9, we dedicate to low tox living. So we cover our homes. We also do some little activities around identifying any areas of toxins in our lives and how we can switch those. And then weeks 10 and 11 are very much mind, body, medicine. We're covering stress, emotional preparation, giving you tools to help manage the stress in your life, and it also clear any emotions that are blocking you or coming up as well. And then lastly, in week 12, we're also going to be doing a bit of a conception ritual together. So giving you guys some activities and kind of personal development things that you can work through with your partner. And then we also have a couple bonus modules that we have included. So we've got a whole section on genetics and preconception. So there we cover some really important genetic factors that could influence this whole picture for you, about how we process different nutrients and what's really important to be aware of before conceiving. And then we also do include a suggested blood test sheet. So then you guys can have a bit of a look and see what levels are crucial to make sure are all in ranges before trying to conceive.
Alrighty, so with all that we've just gone through, we do have a bit of a quote for you here. So, as a future mother or father who's committed to having an extraordinary child, this should thrill you. It means you can powerfully and positively impact your child's health. Mm-hmm. And that quote really finishes it off nicely. We aren't here to scare you. We are here to educate you of all the things that that you can be doing to improve your child's health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even if some things might be alarming, like we can very much change that picture. And I think it should be empowering. You know, we have so much control and we have so much power. So take this as an empowering message.
For generations to come.
Yeah. Okay, so just to tie everything up, guys, thank you so much for being here today with us. Little Reef's really maxed out here. So we're so excited to be sharing this knowledge with you guys, and we would absolutely love to guide you on your preconception journeys. If you know that you want to walk this path, but you're not sure where to begin, we would love to help. We're here. So just want to finish this off with, if you're looking to have a baby in the next 2 years or ever really, honestly, then preconception knowledge is essential. So the fact that you're even here and listening to this and are aware of this is amazing and is huge.
So our course is open. The pre-launch sale is on at the moment. So we've got a $150 off voucher with the code WWC launch. So it's all over our Instagram anyway. So make sure you check that out. And yeah, take advantage of this offer. It's the sale's on for another few days. So make sure you're on top of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can connect with us. All of our details are down below there. So we've got our email, website, and Facebook and Instagram, and we're all just Women's Wisdom Co. So thanks for tuning in, guys. See ya.